You gotta give me one thing. I'm a scary judge of talent.
Adolphus Washington back-to-back plays.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University.
Welcome back, everybody. Another episode, Season 2, Triple Double Podcast. Got a lot of energy today because we've got a veteran guest of the podcast. We've got Chaz Wolfe. Chaz, what's up?
Hey, thanks for having me on. What is this, my third time now on the podcast? I mean, a lot of expectations, a lot of feedback. People are expecting a lot of energy. I've been to Starbucks twice today, closing in on my free reward down there. So, I'm excited to give you some good information, couple lives. Obviously, here we are on Monday.
I got one word for you, buddy. Wow. We're getting after it today on the podcast, man. So if anybody has, if anybody's listening today that hasn't heard Chaz before, he's the owner-operator of Prep Scouting LLC, NCAA certified scouting service, has all type of subscribers, Division I, Division II, all across the country. And like we said, this is his third appearance on the podcast. First one to be on here 3 times. So that's big. Chaz, yesterday we talked and I pretty much gave you the forum on what you want to talk about. So, what do you want to start off with today? I thought you might want to talk about the NCAA case. I know.
I mean, obviously, the jurors met today, right? From what I'm reading from Adam Zagoria's tweet, blog, Dan Wetzel, what I'm following online, with the counts with Jim Gatto and Moral Code and Christian Dawkins. It's going to be interesting to see, obviously, how this plays out. I think they have until Thursday to make their decision. The jurors do. From what I've read, there's 8 female jurors. There's 4 male jurors.
What shoes are the jurors wearing?
It might be New Balance. I mean, New Balance. the Darius Baisley thing today. They hit the market. I saw your boy over there in Evansville. He kept talking about $1 million in a cubicle. I'm thinking, what is he talking about? I didn't know if this was like some LL Cool J 14 shots to the dome. I had to go way back and look at an article, and I was way out of the loop. I'm up here listening to George Strait, so I thought he had some lyrics for me, but he was speaking about Old Boy's contract and $1 million. I mean, whew. I need to get a hold of Rich Paul and see if he can get me a deal over here at the mall. But, I'll take some British Knights or Reebok pumps. But, I don't know. It's a interesting time. We just got off this, we just got off topic a little bit, but that's fine. My Adderall kick in a little bit. But, crazy day out there. Crazy day.
We'll talk about, so with the oh, absolutely. And we'll get to Darius. But, going back to the court case real quick. With a guilty verdict or a non-guilty verdict, what exactly? I think people get confused of the jurisdiction here. It's not the NCAA; it is the actual court of law, obviously. And what a guilty verdict means for Adidas and for these guys individually versus a non-guilty verdict.
I think you look at a verdict verdict, and it's something that obviously, who did they defraud? They're claiming they defrauded these, their institutions. I don't see where Jim Gatto defrauded Adidas. He was just trying to, align Adidas with obviously future pros and trying to pad his pockets. I don't know if this exact figure number is correct. But I saw Jim Gatto's salary was like $159,000. And the money that they were giving or supposedly giving to these prospects. There's obviously a lot of things that were unanswered. A lot of assumptions, compliance people being brought in on the Dennis Smith situation. And then you hear just like last week before everything went to closing, the Zion Williamson thing about, a large amount of money. And then you had Oregon with an unspecific amount of money. Hopefully our boy, the tongue wasn't involved. I don't think he would be with anything like that. But it's a lot of, a lot of hearsay, and it's a lot of like tongue in cheek, and I don't know what they're going to prove on this. I mean, who did they really defraud?
It's a little bit of like a witch hunt. It's a little bit of a witch hunt right now, in that you've got stuff coming up. Silvio De Sousa, undisclosed amount of money. Dennis Smith, doesn't seem like there are super hard facts on that one. Billy Preston, there must be some facts because the kid didn't play, but there's a lot of these guys where, other than Brian Bowen, there's not a lot of concrete evidence on any of these guys. And like, if there's no concrete evidence, like why are they can't just drag these guys through the mud like they're trying to do with somebody like a Coach K and a Bill Self. And if they have evidence, then by all means. But I haven't seen any of it from the stuff I've read on Zagoria.
No, the most. I mean, obviously, TJ Gassnola, who obviously had already entered a plea. He admitted $40,000 to Dennis Smith's handler through the assistant coach at NC State. And then they asked him again about another $40,000, and he's, he couldn't remember, he didn't know. And then Silvio De Sousa, what was it, like $2,500? And then you had speculation with Diamond Stone, with if it was Maryland or here or there. And then the Billy Preston, it's he got a loan for his great grandmother for some type of funny sports car, for a deceased grandmother. I mean, just a lot of. I mean, it was just a whirlwind of like you said, witch hunt. Not a lot of cement information. Some of the people I talked to thought Christian Dawkins might get off on this. And what happens? What happens with the NCAA? Are they? As soon as this trial ends, which is going to be, the deadline, I believe, is Thursday that they have to make a decision. How soon does the NCAA go into investigating, these schools and allegations? Obviously, there was something today that I read that Miami was now, let off the hook from all this, lack of better terms. They were basically thrown out, and there was nothing for the U. So it's funny. I mean, the G League now allowing, changing their contracts for parentheses elite prospects, this $125,000, which, there's been obviously some debate on, that's a good idea or a bad idea. I mean, I think it all depends on the kid and his situation. Some kids can't handle going overseas. I mean, I sure in the hell would like to make $125,000 for 180 days. I mean, now obviously on the grand scheme of things, looking at, what is it? Some of these guys that are making $400,000 or $500,000 a night, but how many guys are really making that?
Well, let's go back one more time on the trial, in that you've seen a lot of stuff. I believe it was Bowen Sr. Who was asked about different schools recruiting tugs. It was Creighton. It was Oklahoma State was on there. It was all the schools that were recruiting him. And he threw out these numbers where this is what this school offered, this is what that school offered. But even then, the NCAA has obviously already started their investigation. But just the word of Brian Bowen Sr., I mean, you don't know what he's saying, whether it's because he wants to clear his conscience. You don't know what he's saying, whether he just wants to get himself off the hook. I mean, the NCAA just can't take what he says as gospel. They've got to have other proof. So that's why the further this thing goes on, I've kind of started to lose faith in it on my end, in terms of if, what hypothetical justice will be served on it.
Oh, and the other thing is, like, who was giving him this information on these figures? Was it coming from Christian Dawkins? Was it, who was, was it the assistant coach, from that university or that institution that was telling him, like, this is what we can do for you? Are there wiretaps? Are there emails? Are there text messages? Is there actual evidence, or is this just basically coming from a runner? Like, to me, it's like.
Well, there hasn't been in the court case. I don't think there's been any evidence introduced other than the testimony of Bowen Sr. Regarding those payments. I don't think I've seen anything of, I'm just going to use Creighton, for example. I don't think I've seen any, like, Creighton sent this text that said, we're offering you X amount of dollars to come here. I've only seen his testimony. I might have missed something, but I don't think so.
So I thought they had all this evidence. They made it sound, early on when they made this discovery and they announced that we've got your playbook and we've got hundreds of hours of, wiretaps. I mean, where is it? I mean, what's the playbook? Take him? Go get him? I mean, what playbook are you running? I mean, if I'm a taxpayer, I'm pissed off. You're wasting your time worrying about something. You're worrying about supposedly NCAA amateur college basketball. That's the best thing you can do at the FBI right now. Is you're worried about 4 or 5 different people trying to make $100,000 or $40,000.
Well, how about Silvio De Sousa is $2,500? So to have a court case over $2,500, the attorneys that Adidas has, I guarantee you, are $1,000 an hour attorneys, if not more. So it's just kind of laughable that we're bringing in those guys for that amount of money. Unless we've got evidence on something, $100,000 case or more, and even that, in the grand scheme of things, to the taxpayers, is still a waste of time and money. But some of these, it's like we keep on using the term witch hunt.
Yeah, I look at, I was reading back on the Marcus Camby case that happened at UMass years ago, whenever they, were obviously put on, NCAA violations and obviously stripped of their banners and, everything that happened there. That was over, I read a little bit from what I could find, and that was over $40,000 that Marcus Camby was given over a course of time. I don't even have the number of years, 2 or 3 years from agents, right? So, if you wanted to go back in time on, past jurisdiction of what could happen, the NCAA could do, but I just think with the business of the game now, I think the NCAA is just going to change the rules like they've already shown that they are. They've shown that now you can be represented by, elite prospects can be represented by agents. I think they're just trying to evolve. And really, how much of this sport outside of your low to mid majors is amateur basketball? This isn't amateur basketball. There's guys making $5, $6, $7 million coaching 31 games. This isn't amateur basketball.
Right, and you just made a good point that the guys who might end up winning in this whole lawsuit are the guys class of 2019 and under that are one and done level talents, and that they're going to have more options. They're going to have a little bit more leverage, and Brian Bowen might be the scapegoat in that process, but those guys potentially are going to have more opportunity. What's the NCAA going to do? The players at the end of the day have the leverage, because if more of those kids start doing the G League thing, the NCAA is going to have less of a monopoly on non-NBA talent, and it's going to dilute their product at the high major level, and people are going to notice. So the NCAA has to cater to some extent to the wishes of, these high level targets. But what these guys have to do is learn how to work together to accomplish a goal. And it's almost like the NBA Players Union with kind of an unofficial fraternity of 5-star prospects.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, the 5, 10, 15 guys nationally across the class that we have in America in 19, 20, 21, 22, however it goes, it's not going to change the common fan or, the people that are in the offices that are, putting together their office pools and their brackets. They're still going to be invested, and they're still going to have the same interest in March Madness. You just might not. But think about this. Think about guys like Ben Simmons. Former players that were, elite players that didn't even get a chance to play in, the NCAA tournament, and how little effect that even made. So, from the grand scheme of things, the NCAA tournament is the moneymaker, and I just, I look at all the billions of dollars that the NCAA makes off of that, from a forward thinking and from a big picture, that's the money. And it's dealing with all this, violations and putting a team on probation because of agents or $40,000. The easiest way to get rid of it is change the rules.
Right. You got 340 Division I schools times 13 scholarship players. And out of all those players, how many guys are we talking about that are really worthy of being represented by an agent. On the big end, I would say it's 200. On the reasonable end, I would say it's under 100. Not guys that'll play professional basketball, but guys that are no-brainer NBA guys. I mean, let's say it's 100. So, I mean, if the NCAA has to not even let these kids get paid, but just let them have representation for their last year of school, that's such a small price to pay, in not having to worry about diluting your product. Doesn't cost you any money. It just costs you a little bit of a times are changing, alteration of your procedures.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what they've done recently, the changes they made with the transfer portal that they've developed online, showing the process, handling it better. It'll be interesting to see how quickly this happens with transfers, how they're going to, with the waiver process and, allowing kids hardship and also with the grad transfers. But I know it, college basketball is a big business at the top. The low and the mid majors, it's just a pecking order, and they're just basically at the beckoning of what goes on with the Power 5 schools.
Okay, well, let's move on then. You've hinted at it a couple times. You've got kids now who are not going the college route, whether it's an academic issue, whether it's a amateurism issue like a Brian Bowen. You've got this G League opportunity that's proposed, and that is, like you said, to have $125,000 salary plus the opportunity to sign endorsement deals, which some of the kids potentially, if they land the right kids, are going to be able to do. What are your thoughts on that as an alternative to college basketball?
Well, it's a major risk if you're not good enough. You better have some unbelievable faith. You better have some unbelievable guidance. For you to obviously lose out on the opportunity to be coached. Because if you're going to the G League, you're obviously, are you physically ready? Is your skill set ready? I mean, how many guys are really ready to make that jump? I mean, I've read the comments that Jim Boeheim made on Darius Baisley, a kid that, obviously from Cincinnati, you've probably seen 100 times. And Jim Boeheim commented on Darius Baisley of, he's physically not ready, he's not mature enough, his body, blah, blah, blah. But, if he takes a year or two to train, he might have an opportunity to, play and whatever, have a role at the, at the professional level. But I just think, it depends on, it's like anything. It's like, you see kids in other sports, if it's, and this is going to be way out there and you're ready for this one, but like you see other kids in other sports go professional, like if it's in golf or if it's in baseball, they like it's different, but like they're taking that risk at a young age. Like if you have enough support, and you're just not chasing some, $1 million dream, like, do you really love basketball? Like, to me, in the back of my mind is like, are you obsessed with basketball? Because if you're going to be a pro, like, you have to be obsessed. Like, I read the other day that Reggie Miller on game days, I don't know if this number's even right, but he said he made like 500 or 700 jumpers on a game day, before the, in the mornings or whatever. And then, 1,000 on days off. Like, how many kids even do 1,000 in a summer? I mean, they're playing 5-on-5 same age AAU all summer. I mean, how many times are kids getting in the gym that much in this generation to work on their game? So, I'm all for it. I'm all for, kids wanting to take a risk and go out and do it. But like at the end of the day, don't say, sorry me, if your ass got, beat up in the G League, or if you got, if you just didn't make it, because I mean, it's real, it's life then. And I think that's the risk that you take.
You're making $125,000. Maybe you've got endorsements. You obviously have big plans for the following NBA draft. You want to be a first round pick, get guaranteed a couple million, but the majority, 90+% of the guys you're going to play against in the G League are going to be guys 21 to 25, I'm guessing, who maybe have a family already. They're making $40,000, not $125,000. They don't have the endorsement opportunities as you have. So they're going to be going at you trying to, show that they're worthy of hanging and you're not. And that's something that guys might not be ready for. And, not that you can hide it at the college level, not that you can hide it at the NBA level as kind of a bench rider, but you're really not going to be able to hide it at the G League level.
No, I mean, you're going in and trying to earn a job off of a guy who's a man that's, got to feed a wife, a family, whatever. I mean, my buddy's an assistant coach for the Canton Charge, who, it's a affiliate of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, I knew their situation. I mean, those guys are making, I think, they just came out with this $125,000 salary. That's an opportunity probably for a handful of guys. The rest of these guys are probably going to be making 25, 27.5, 30,000. They're going to be staying, in a 600 square foot townhouse over here on the other side of Canton. It's not going to be, it's not going to be all bells and whistles like they assume it is by perception. And the guys on this team and on this roster with the Canton Charge, I remember seeing Quinn Cook. I remember seeing Kevin Jones. There's some guys that have got a chance to get, obviously get called up, but most of these guys are just mercenaries. They're just taking a couple years in between jobs, careers, professions, trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do, until they're working at Enterprise.
Right. And a lot of them are just trying to get an NBA 10-day contract. So once they put that on their resume, then they can go over to Europe and make twice the money in Europe because they've got NBA on their resume. And a lot of people don't realize that the G League is a means to an end, but that end isn't the same for everybody.
100%. I mean, I don't know all the facts and the figures on the total number of guys who get called up, but I'm looking at this roster at the Canton Charge. A lot of these guys are in their mid-20s and they're grown-ass men, so,
Right. So it's an interesting dynamic.
I'm all for the opportunity, but I think that the perception of all these kids that are going to automatically get a $125,000 contract is very few and far in between. I think that's probably the maximum, for an elite prospect, if it's, Terrence Simmons or if it's, I'm obviously not a G League affiliate by any means, but I guarantee you that Brian Bowen is probably not getting a $125,000 contract in G League. I just don't see it. The guy's a 4-year college player, most likely, if that would have still been there. Absolutely.
Well, one of the other things you wanted to talk about in kind of the spirit of maybe trying to dissuade kids from doing the G League thing, or maybe to dissuade kids from taking a financial handout that's against the rules, the NCAA has also come out and they've changed the official visit rules. So now you get 5 official visits during your junior year. You get 5 official visits during your senior year. If you have to transfer, you get another 5 official visits. You can visit the same school officially more than once as long as it's not in the same year. So you wanted to talk about this change to the rule. Why do you think this rule's changed, and what do you think of the result of it?
Well, talking to college coaches, most of the influence that they told me is the big rule changes is allowing the kid to get on campus earlier, to get acclimated, also to maybe help. Most of the time, it's the pressure of the coach not having to deal with, so many visits during the kid's senior year. They feel that a lot of them are wasted. Some of the schools, depending, on their situation, felt that it was better off because it gives them a whole year window to get the kid on campus, to follow them more, to develop a relationship. Those were some of the pro benefits that I heard from different coaches. Is it gave an opportunity for growth in the relationship and the recruiting process. The kid, obviously, his junior, senior year, if he wants to take all of them, he's going to get 10 visits. He could obviously do 5 different schools, or, however he wants to do. If he wants to go to the same school twice, however you want to do that ratio, and where he wants to go. But I think, is it going to cut down the transfer rate? I don't know. I think it's just maybe part of their culture. At the end of the day, I think kids are going to, some are going to go where they want to play, and some are want to go close to home, and some are going to go where it's perception. So we'll find out. I think, I think it's a good rule. So we'll see how that goes.
I like the rule as well. I think the transfer issue is a separate issue. Like you said, it's so cultural now. and it's so much dictated by how much kids play early on in their career. And unless a college coach is going to use the official visit as an evaluation tool, which, to an extent happens, but it's still more of a sales process recruiting visit than it is an evaluation tool, that's not going to change. But what the NCAA, I think, is doing is kind of insulating themselves on, we now have more things to point to. If something goes bad for a kid, we can tell them, well, hey, did you use all 10 of your official visits? And now we're saying we've got more leverage. It's a political game. We've got more ability to say, we've offered you these resources, 10 visits where your family doesn't have to pay anything. Have you taken advantage of it? And I think it is a positive thing. Like you said, the ability to go there for one weekend is
well, you get 48 hours too. So it's like you're on a 48-hour visit. Like, how comfortable are you really going to be? I mean, and depending if you're. Let me tell you
a great story about that. So when I was was I a freshman or was I a high school senior? I don't remember if I was a high school senior or if I was a college freshman. But I was at Cincinnati, and we came in as one of the finalists for Hashim Thabit, who, was a top 10, maybe a top 5 prospect coming out of high school.
Yeah, 7'4" shot block.
Right. So he was one of the guys. He was one of the guys. So he officially visits Cincinnati. And your boy was another manager with me, Adam Prohaska, world-class idiot. But he used to always say, a big-time skill guy, he used to always say that if it had not rained in Cincinnati that weekend, that Hashim Thabit comes to Cincinnati instead of Connecticut. Now, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. But at the same time, it kind of just shows you, like, if something weird happens on a visit.
Well, I mean, he might have thought he was at the beach, because I remember when Hugs was at Cincinnati, he used to tell all those kids out of Michigan that Cincinnati was on the beach, and they didn't know the difference when they got to the Ohio River.
Robert Whaley. But no, I mean, it goes to the point of.
We called him whale juice when he.
There you go, whale juice. It just goes to the point that the visits can be screwed up.
My thing is, you see all these kids that take unofficials and official visits. I mean, if you're regional, and usually most recruiting is regional, unless you're a top 100 kid. Obviously, if you're some kids, if you go to the West Coast, you're going to Arizona, you go to UCLA, Texas, whatever it may be. We've seen some kids from, Jackson Hayes go to, from Cincinnati, go out to Texas or whatnot. Some kids from the East Coast going out to
Miami, Florida.
A fact sheet here on statistics, but most kids are going regional, and they've already been on that campus, or they've been to an unofficial, or they've been to elite camp. I mean, not too many times do you see kids going too far away that they haven't already been there. But I mean, to back up your statement on the rainy day, I mean, you're in the Midwest. I mean, we don't have the greatest weather in Ohio.
Neither did UConn. But I mean, it's just I don't know what made me think of that. But I mean, he's a total idiot. But it just goes to, it goes to show that the official visit, maybe there's a small degree of luck. Maybe you take them out, and the normal pack of girls isn't at the bar that night.
My favorite official visits are the ones that they do at night. The kid flies in at midnight. They do the campus tour at night because they don't want to show them everything around it. They have flashlights, and they take them around everywhere, and that way there they don't get to see the surrounding area or really how bad the campus is. They do a night tour. Those are my favorites.
Oh, man. Well, hey, I don't have any knowledge of those. But the other thing, that goes with it, with the official visits now, is there's still some talk on the fall signing period. So we're approaching the fall signing period. Right now, it's very much in existence. It's November 14th to 21st. Right now in Ohio, as of today, October 22nd or 21st, we are expecting 18 Ohio seniors plus one Ohio post-grad player to sign a Division I letter, about 25 Ohio seniors to sign Division II letters. So there's a lot of debate on the fall signing period. Where do you fall on that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really don't have a big debate with it. I mean, I think if a kid's ready to go, he's a senior. It's November. He's been vetted through the process. If he is, more than ready to commit and sign that NLI in November, then good for him. I mean, usually the kids that are waiting until, the regular, which I think it's now become the late period. It seems like it takes forever, you feel that those kids are future transfers or misses or reaches. I mean, what do we got? We got, Gaffney, who's a Brewster, going to Ohio State. Your boy Deuce going to WU, Samari, Cincinnati, Andre Gordon, Sydney down Huntington Prep. What's he got? He's going to Virginia Tech. None of us have seen Jalen Withers play high school basketball. We haven't seen Jalen Withers play because he's now at Cleveland Heights. You might have saw him on the AAU circuit. Obviously going to play for Chris Mack at Louisville. I haven't seen Jeremiah Francis since 1987. I mean, when's the last time he's played? Kurt Stubbs working him out? I don't know.
The last time he played basketball, I was sitting by Kurt Stubbs. Yeah, that was the infamous Pick Central Moeller game. But yeah, we got a lot of kids signed, and I mean, I look at it like this. A lot of people think that it's benefits to college coaches having these kids sign early, and it does. It gives them more preparation as for next year's roster. I mean, you think about college basketball during the season, but during the day when they have meetings, they're thinking long term as to next season and beyond. But it also protects the kids. It gives you a little more freedom if you're a player who's ready to commit to know where you're going next year, take pressure off of your senior season, and then have a little bit of protection in that you're locked in. A college can't call you and say your spot's no longer available. And, we're talking about 5-star top 100 guys earlier, and that doesn't affect them, but it could potentially affect other kids at the low to mid level. And that might be one of the nice things about the fall signing period.
Well, that, and then on top of it, you got to look from the coach's perspective. Everything's based on their workload. You're looking at, okay, we've got, you look at the guys at Miami High, okay, we've got Garcia and Etzler done in this class. It gives us time to really focus in and dive in on our season right now. We don't have to be stretched thin, running around all winter, going to all these events and going to practices and high school games and prep school tournaments and JUCO things and whatever it may be, because now we've got our kids committed. We can dial in and we can focus in on our roster now. We can handle that. And, you got to look at from the workload of being a college coach and the amount of practice that they have, handling recruiting, the academic standpoint. If they don't have that, the travel, some teams don't have, not everybody has 7-8 staff administrators and support staff guys. Some of these guys are still handling the food on the road. Some of them are still handling, dealing with the gear. If it's Trish at Nike or BSN or however they deal with their stuff, they're still focused in on, obviously scouting their next 3 opponents or, handling all that stuff. So it's a lot. So getting these early commitments in November from that standpoint really helps them out.
Well, your point, Chaz, your point, Chaz, is rarely do I see, and this isn't a criticism of college coaches, but rarely when I go to a game during the winter do I see a Division I college coach out there to watch one kid, probably a senior or maybe a younger kid. Rarely do I think that game is getting that coach's full attention. And again, that's not a criticism. It's just the fact that first they got to think, well, I drove 3 hours here. Now I got to drive to the airport to get a shuttle to meet my team. And then we got the scout and all this. There's so much else going on that, right, if you could lock it up in the fall, you've given yourself.
They're just in mental limbo.
Right.
They're just trying to get their grasp on that night, just trying to make sure they're at the right gym or the right time, or hell, half the time they didn't buy a program, there isn't a program, and you got to tell him that, so-and-so is number 23 and that's what he's watching,
Well, right. They spend half the game trying to figure out where the kids' parents are sitting. But, if you're a family, that's why it kind of behooves you to lock it up in the fall if you know where you want to go, because, then you've got a much better chance. In the fall, on the contrary, if you see a college coach in an open gym, there's a very, very high likelihood that you're getting their best eyes, that they're really focused in on you. And, that's your time to assess a good fit and make a commitment if you see fit.
100%. And I also think that shows you the stability of the program. It shows that the forward momentum of the program. It shows the, where they're at. They understand the fit, the level of their guys, and things happen. Guys get hurt. Kids transfer, in December, during that Christmas break time or, middle of the semester, and then at the end of the, end of the season, March, they get knocked out of whatever it may be in our state, the MAC, Horizon, A10, Big Ten, or whatever it may be early, and they're reaching to maybe get a guy in March in Columbus. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe this. If Solon doesn't make the state tournament, Sincere carries at West Liberty right now.
Oh, without question, 100%.
I mean, because what happened? I mean, we've talked about this a lot of times, numerous situations and settings. Based on his performance and being injured in the summer, and then the season that he had to get Solon to the state finals, and the performances that he had in Columbus. If he is not playing in Columbus, it's a whole different thing for him. So, he's a rare, and I've talked to Keith Dambrot at Duquesne about Sincere, and he openly admitted, I did not think he was that good. We watched, numerous guys on his AU team. We weren't watching him. He had a great state tournament. We needed a point guard. We wanted that, it just worked out for him. So I think that's a very rare occasion where a kid obviously improves that much, but on top of it is healthy, and then on top of that, the fit and the level and making the right choice worked out for him. Because a lot of times, we joke about it and we see it on Twitter that a kid receives an offer and he takes the commitment late in April or May, and everyone's like, future transfer. I mean, where's he going to end up, after he goes there? Where will he be? Where's he coming back to? School A, B, or C, right?
Absolutely. But I think there's another, you got to look at it case by case. And there's a late period argument for a lot of kids. This isn't a podcast where we talk about a lot of kids, but I'll throw one at you. The kid from Olentangy, Ben Roderick, he is blowing up as a recruit last year as a junior, gets hurt during his junior season where he's putting up like 25 damn points a game, misses the whole junior season after that, misses the entire AAU season. So in the fall, he's starting to get some stuff, mid-major and high major, and he thinks, well, I think I'm a high major player. So he goes ahead and says, well, I'm going to sign late. I'm going to use the season for guys who were hearing about me a year ago to see me play, and now I'm going to have more opportunity. So, I mean, the late signing period is there for a reason. Sincere is one of those guys, even though he had the whole being committed to a D2 thing. But for a kid like Ben Roderick, the late signing period makes perfect sense. So it is a case by case, and that's, some of the things the NCAA does do well is giving you options because there is no perfect fitting piece to this puzzle.
How do you feel about a kid that's verbally committed to a D2 school, but then, picks up a low to mid-major Division I offer, in a short time period between that signing period? I mean, do you think, we saw a kid, there's a kid that's verbal to Cedarville, right? And he's got a Horizon League offer. I mean, is he still going to keep that? I mean, that's probably still on the table, right?
Well, you also don't know, this is the thing about that. Division II, we don't know what that kid's offer to Cedarville was. Cedarville might have offered that kid 50% scholarship as his Division II, and he took it. That was his best offer on the table, and now he gets a Division I offer for 100%. Well, hell yeah, I'm taking it. As long as it's a place that I can see myself being at as a human being, and let's say for the sake of this argument that he does.
Well, that's another thing that you got to tell your listeners is, I think most of your listeners realize that, there's 13 Division I, but at the Division II level, you have 10 full scholarships, and they can be broken down any way they want. Now, not every school has 10. I mean, depending on that, that athletic department's budget and obviously the financial stability of that program. But, that pie can be broken up numerous ways. So I think your listeners, got to be educated. And that is, listen, just because there's, just because you also get D2 offer, it's not a full scholarship sometimes either.
Right. Let me stop you real quick. Anybody who is hearing that's not familiar with it, we did an episode in season 1 with Ohio Dominican head coach Dan Evans, and really got some great perspective on how Division IIs recruit, the kind of extra layer to recruiting where you've got to gauge financial packages. And, if anybody has any questions on that, I'd recommend you go back and listen to that episode.
I like how you're throwing back different seasons now. It's almost like I'm on the HBO app. Like I'm going back on like Curb Your Enthusiasm season 4. The Sopranos. I know. I bet Mario's a Sopranos guy though, isn't he? He just smiles. We can't hear him.
I'm a big Curb guy.
Big Curb guy over here announced.
There it is.
There it is. Moro.
We got another season coming out, so I imagine you're excited about that new one coming out.
Oh yeah.
But
so let's move forward here, Chaz. You wanted to talk about. I'm looking at a couple of your other topics here. High school basketball in Ohio. Coming up real quick. I released my Cincinnati high school preview today online. Just a little crappy document I always put up to try and get some conversation, maybe get a little web traffic. But high school practice starts on November 2nd. High school games start on November 29th. So we're just a couple weeks away here.
I mean, I think it starts for the people, those kids that love it. I mean, let's just be real. It's a football state. The early events, we all cover them. We all go to them. It is what it is. I mean, I think with Ohio State getting their nose knocked in the dirt at Purdue, you still got the Michigan game. And I think the state of Ohio is so wrapped around Ohio State football, and I think that sounds a little shallow or naive, but it's true. I think that people are so tied into the Buckeyes, and I think, you look at Ohio, the events really start to take off after Christmas. A lot of the special events, a lot of the invite events, January is always slam packed, with those other high school events. So, it's an interesting, to me, I usually go out of state. November, I'm usually going up to Connecticut for all the prep school stuff, up in New Haven, the event ran by Adam Finkelstein at the ESPN, and then in December, obviously I like going down to that Ohio Valley Showcase that our boy Benny Carroll was putting on, but I mean, it's just a little too far. It's a little too far for me right now, and I wish it was, I wish it was maybe a little bit closer to a hotel or somewhere. You know what I mean? The hour drive from Jeffersonville all the way down to Hillsborough. It's a good event, not to diss Benny or anything like that, but the way that these events are being taken off small college campuses to high schools now, I think you just got to pick and choose where you're going. And for me, I like to go out of state in November and December. Obviously, November is more scrimmages in Ohio, but in January and February, I think you can get caught back up in our state really quick with the flying to the hoops and the play-by-plays and everything else.
Yeah, you're not going to miss anything in the fall. Or, sorry, in the early part of the season, you're not going to miss anything that you can't see later. And it changes so much throughout the season. I saw Moeller lose to Covington Catholic last year in December, and at the end of the year, I feel like Moeller would have won that game by 10. So things change. But when you go up to Connecticut, is there a Toodie Cerencione sighting?
No, what happens is after Toodie gets done with camp, that last camp in August,
I'm surprised.
Toodie somehow finds his way down there in that Destin, Florida area. I don't, one of his guys, Toodie's got a couple sponsors, as I like to call it, a handler, Toodie's, he's been doing this a long time. I mean, so you can find Toodie at some JUCO games. You can find him down at Eastern Florida, Chipola, he's down there watching JUCO for the Washington Wizards coach. He scouts for the Washington Wizards in the fall, in the winter. So he doesn't really service again until those June camps, those contracts are coming through those fax machines, as you know. I mean, I wish that we could get a
well, yeah, Toodie really can evaluate.
What's that?
No, go ahead.
I wish we could really get our hands on some of those Toodie summer camp contracts. I mean, the needs and the wants that he has and the requirements. I mean, I heard at Cincinnati he's got to go to King. I mean, what's he got to do? He's always got to go to church on Sunday, and he's got the matinee movie, and then you got to You got to take him to Kings Island. You got to take him to a Reds game. I mean,
unlimited hot dogs during concession stand. If he's not going to wear a large T-shirt, if you don't have a medium or a small, you're going to have a problem. So you have to know how to
shooting station. He has to have the shooting station. Beef.
Yep, absolutely beef. So
maybe if depending on the camp, the managers or GAs, maybe one of those kids got a little extra money, might slide him down to Montgomery on the river. You never know.
Oh, absolutely. I think last time I ate with Toodie, we went to PF Chang's. He kept calling it JP Chong's. So we got a little JP Chong's in our life. He asked the waitress, he told the waitress, when will Victoria tell her secrets? Absolutely.
See Toodie in New Haven, Connecticut. I mean, there'll be a whole, cast of characters up there. It's a good time, and also moral like this, New Haven, Connecticut is heralded as the pizza capital of the world. I mean, they got a lot of pride in their pizza up there. Frank Pepe, Sally's. I mean, not just Academica up there with Yale. I mean, there's some big time pizza.
Well, speaking of, that's near UConn. Speaking of college basketball, then I think the last thing we wanted to talk about here, some of the Ohio kids, the non-freshmen, returning college players who you think are going to have big years in college basketball. So you throw out some names and I'll throw out some names after.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, you caught me off balance on that one. I'm still thinking about that pizza. Jason Carter, I think we should stay local for a little bit. I mean, you look at Jason Carter, who's over at Ohio U. He got hurt last year. A lot of preseason lists going on with him. From Johnstown, Monroe. I know Marl's been over there on those roundabouts. Yeah, a big teamwork guy. He's a kid, I think, just in state, in Ohio, for some of your listeners. I think he's going to have a big year. Another kid for up in the Northeast.
Jalen Avery at Kent State.
Jalen Avery, obviously at Kent State. Jamond Ivey over at Akron. Glenville kid, senior year. I think, he's going to be having an opportunity to have a big year. I mean, Jerron Cumberland seems to be on a lot of lists.
Down here, Jerron Cumberland is the big one. Not a true local kid, but 35 miles. Really fits the Bearcat mold. He's gonna be counted. But when you look at Xavier doesn't have any Ohio kids this year. It's Cincinnati only having one. Cumberland's kind of the face of local basketball down here at the college level right now.
Well, we look at the preseason AP poll that came out. I mean, Kansas at 1, Kentucky at 2, Zaga at 3, Duke 4, Virginia at 5. I mean, Tennessee, Nevada. You look at, obviously, Michigan State. I mean, Big Daddy Ward up there. The Spartans are preseason number 10. He's going to have a huge year, for the Spartans.
Well, let me say another guy besides Nick Ward that I'm hoping has a big senior year at Michigan State is Kyle Ahrens from Versailles. Has had some injuries, has played behind some really good guys up there, and I think he's got the ability to have a big senior year. He's a kid that didn't transfer when a lot of other kids would, so I would really like to see Kyle Ahrens have a big year up there.
How about this name for you? Lamont West.
Yeah. So that was my next one. I was going to say, you go over to West Virginia, you got Issa Ahmad from Shaker Heights, and you got Lamont West from Cincinnati Withrow as two guys who, I don't know if this will happen, but they're going to generate professional buzz. I've seen Lamont West on draft boards. Issa Ahmad is one of the best scorers in the Big 12. So those two guys are going to be huge in terms of Ohio guys in the national media this year, as will your boy Xavier Simpson from Michigan. Yeah,
I mean, when I talk to some of the guys in the Big 12, some of the assistants about, Lamont West, because a lot of guys were, saying where did he come from? And obviously Lamont left Ohio, and where did he go? He went down to Georgia this year. Is that correct?
So his senior year, he was supposed to go to some prep school in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
They get down there, and the prep school doesn't even exist. But because they'd already moved, they ended up enrolling at Miller Grove, and he enrolled there as a junior, and he was going to do a post grad year, and eventually ended up West Virginia took a chance on him, and 4 years later, he's one of the preseason All Big 12 guys.
And when I talked to some of the assistants at West Virginia, I was talking to Ronnie Everhart a couple of weeks ago. He thought out of the whole team. Obviously Sags Canate gets a lot of exposure, and being a preseason All Big 12 guy, and defensive specialist, and obviously Issa's a household name by now. But he was telling me how a lot of pro scouts that have came down to Morgantown thought that Lamont might have the opportunity to have the most upside professionally down the road, just based on his size, his length, his ability to shoot the ball. Obviously there's some other things that need to evolve in his game, but just from that standpoint of being able to stretch the floor and shoot it at a high number was something that a lot of the NBA scouts have been impressed by.
Lamont is still very untapped. I mean, he always looked like a baby, but Lamont still looks like a baby in the face. I mean, he still has a ways to go. And I mean, as an NBA guy, I could see getting excited about him.
There's a list that Jeff Goodman put out the other day on his Twitter account, and it had some of the top shooters in NCAA. And I've been, going through this and trying to find where this list is, but he had a list of guys, 20 or 30 of the top shooters in college basketball this year. And on that list, out of the first 15 or 20, 10 of those guys, I believe, the other day, I should have saved her like the tweet, had Ohio roots at one time or the other. And I got to find that. If not, I'll send it to you and you can take a look at it. But it was kind of interesting to see how many guys are in, are like Jordan Dardis. That's another name that I'm forgetting to bring up. Jordan Dardis is one of the top shooters in college basketball over at Ohio U, shooting 40-some plus %. There's just some guys that we've overlooked, and you got to really some of these guys are older now. And being an older player in college basketball is where the bread and butter of success for some of these teams, and there's a quite amount of guys that we've not mentioned that are out there.
Well, you hit a couple guys on the head, Chaz, I think are really good. Jason Carter, Jordan Dardis, Ohio, Jalen Avery, Kent State, Seth Towns is one we didn't mention at Harvard. Those guys also made really good decisions for level of play where they, all those guys could have gone to bigger schools, but ended up at a level and a fit in terms of chemistry where they could fit in really well and play right away. And, sometimes you've got to look back and say that determines how good of a college player are. A kid who I love, and this isn't an insult to the kid, but when you look at Jaron Simmons, who started his career at Houston, transferred, had a couple great years at Ohio U, goes to Michigan last year where they're national runners up, but their guards are so good that his grad transfer year at Michigan, he can't hardly get off the bench. So some of the guys we mentioned as great players, part of the reason they're great players is they made great decisions on where to go.
No, you're absolutely right. That shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, obviously that's a situation that, they go to the Final Four. The guy has a great run, a great opportunity, a great experience. But Andre Wolford, how about that name? St. Francis, PA.
St. Ignatius
kid. I believe he walked on at St. Francis, PA. He's one of the top 3-point specialists in the country. Dardis, another kid. This kid's not an Ohio kid, but he's a touching Bordering State kid. Devin Kennedy up at Princeton.
Played with OBC.
Yeah, Beetle Bolden. I mean,
or King James. Beetle Bolden is essentially Beetle Bolden grew up less than 2 miles from downtown. Beetle Bolden grew up near where Morrow lives right now. Fun fact. And he'll be the point guard for West Virginia. Grew up best friends with Jalen Avery, actually. And then I'll give you a couple other ones, Chaz, that I wrote down. We mentioned Xavier Simpson from Michigan, mentioned Seth Towns from Harvard. Caleb and Andre Wesson, both at Ohio State. Ohio State's got some other Ohio guys, but the Wessons are really going to be counted on. Nate Fowler went to Moeller, is on all the billboards for Butler this year, and I think he's going to have a big year. Sterling Manley kind of surprised a lot of people last year with North Carolina. Be interesting to see if he can make any more headway this year. Javon Bess at St. Louis now is a big one. What was the other one you had? I think we had a couple more, but those are some of the main ones. There's a lot of Ohio guys at the Division I level that and there's obviously all the freshmen as well that we're expecting to.
Khalil Iverson.
Oh, Khalil Iverson, Fleur's boy. Khalil Iverson at Wisconsin as well. Dimitri Trice.
Senior year at Wisconsin for the Badgers.
Yep, Dimitri Trice is another one who is a Ohio kid for Wisconsin. So there's a lot of them. And, it's easy. Sometimes we get critical of these kids. Like you say, it's easy for us to say, man, these kids can't really shoot. But then you look at the broad spectrum of compared to the rest of the country, and all of a sudden maybe these kids can shoot the ball a little better than we thought.
Well, I think the one thing also is we overlook it. We've got pretty good basketball in our state. What did you say earlier? We have, 18 kids currently committed to Division I schools. And historically, at least over the last decade, it's usually in the 30s. And usually it seems like half of that field of 30 plus guys are going out of state. And we've got 13 Division I schools in state. So, we obviously got to, supply within the state, those 13 schools. But I think the reason the guys like to recruit Ohio kids is, for the most part, their skill set's pretty good. They're usually tough kids. They value winning. And I think that's the reason why we're so critical at times is because we know what good basketball is. I think we all kind of look at the game the same way. Maybe if it's not skill or athleticism, we might vary on how we approach that evaluation. But for the most part, winning is, the key component in everything. And I think in Ohio, the way that, you don't have a lot of prep schools. You don't have a lot of – we've seen it, we've seen an increase of kids going to prep schools. But for the most part, sure in the hell not like, the East Coast where kids are reclassing and transferring as much. And the rules that the OHSAA has implied where, now if you do want to transfer, well, that's fine. We'll let you play the first 11 games, but you're going to you're going to sit the last half of the season. So, from a college coach's perspective, there's a lot of guys that love to recruit Ohio, I think because doing it the right way and also on top of the value of winning.
Well, last year I did this and I haven't done it this year. It took a lot of work. I don't know if I will, but Zach and Jason posted something up in Columbus of active Division I players. So it got me doing some research, and I found last year that just Greater Cincinnati, Greater Dayton area had 53 active Division I players. Now 53. Now that changes a little bit nowadays because with transfers, guys are in school longer and graduate transfers. So the number is higher than it used to be, but that's 53, and Columbus has a similar number. And, Cleveland, Akron, Canton area has a similar number. Toledo has a smaller number because of population, but there's a lot of Ohio kids on the college scene. And, that certainly makes it fun to follow. And we just named, 15, 20 kids. We probably missed another 10 kids who are, going to have big seasons in college basketball at different levels.
Well, we forget, you forget about kids that go to prep school or a kid that goes to JUCO or a kid that transferred and,
or any freshman.
How many people right now, if you went to a high school game in Cleveland, if you went up to and said, where's Carlton Bragg at right now? How many of those people probably even know? I mean, they probably don't even realize where he's at right now. So, from that standpoint, when a kid's kind of outside of the region, you kind of lose a little bit touch on it. But, I think we covered a lot of the guys.
Absolutely.
We're going to have breakout years this upcoming season in college basketball.
Well, I got two more questions for you, and then I'll let you go here. This is turning into a long podcast, which is good. But two more things you sent me, and I'm going to ask you the questions and you answer them. Number one, mental state of Kurt Stubbs after a Pickerington Central shocking football loss to Reynoldsburg High School. How's he doing?
Well, I imagine he probably, after that game, went home, jumped right on the treadmill, probably ran 5 to 10 miles. Woke up in the next morning, went to Smoothie King, probably got the large strawberry dream. I imagine he's probably on his second Twitter account taking shots at the staff, but not too harshly, probably in good taste, putting in some adjustments.
Did Kurt Stubbs actually curse?
No. Church cuss you. It probably undress you PG-13, but nothing too vulgar. Nothing that you couldn't say, politically incorrect or, that would make anyone uncomfortable, in line at Disney World.
Well, that's the Stubbs update. Then the second question, and this is, at your request, Jay Morrow's beard, fashion trend or lifestyle choice?
Lifestyle choice. Lifestyle choice. I mean, I thought of it, I think now, when you see him out there on the road, I got a mental flashback right now when I saw him down in Atlanta, down, in the Under Armour event. Like, you probably miss a guy, if you know what he's wearing, the beard, you've seen, it's kind of the MO now. I mean, so with the wedding coming up, if he gets rid of it, it might cause some issues. It might be feel like, getting married to a different man. It's who he is now. It's part of the identity. I don't know if it's on his current driver's license. I don't know if it's on, his Twitch account or whatever that stuff's called. I mean, but I think you got to keep it. You roll with it. You go with it. The only time I think he changes it is maybe someday if he decides to have children and, they're like 5 or 6 years old, and in the middle of the night he just shaves it and they wake up in the morning and he just scares the shit out of them. I mean, that's kind of where I was going with that. So, it's who he is. It's ingrained in his blood now.
You can take the beard off the man. You can't take the man from the beard.
No, you can't take that beard out of Grove City. I think that's Grove City strong.
Something like that.
It is on the driver's license, and it is never going to get cut, but it might get trimmed.
It's Grove City strong. Morrow says it is on the driver's license.
It is on the driver's license.
So, well, good deal, Chaz. We'll.
Well, there it is. I mean,
it's something, man. So, hey, we'll let you go here. We'll wrap it up right before this gets real stupid. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Chaz Wolfe, Prep Scouting LLC. You guys listened to a somewhat ridiculous episode of the Triple Double Podcast. Chaz, appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to PlayEasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, PlayEasy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at PlayEasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.